Tim set out a quest to rescue the princess. She had been captured by a terrible evil monster. This happens because Tim made a mistake. With this word, Braid greeted players in 2008, a strange and unusual puzzle game with intriguing plot, and made by a known solo developer with just a handful of helpers. Who had ever heard of such a thing? Now, over 15 years later, when the indie sector has grown enormously and is no longer a curiosity about the full-fledged part of the game industry, Jonathan's first game still seems like one of the most cornerstones of the revolution that takes place. The slightly late anniversary reissue provides an excellent opportunity to remember what made Braid beautiful then and why it remains important now. What was Braid's main achievement? The answer, of course, depends on one's personal perspective. Some might say it was a clever meta-commentary and postmodern look at very essence of video games. Others will remind us that in 2008, against the backdrop of a AAA industry mired in cliché with no alternatives, it was a real slap in the face to public taste and one of the pillars of the indie boom that followed. Some are still impressed by the touching story with its unique presentation and wide field for interpretation. All of this is great and important, but in my view, its main achievement is that with all the above, Braid was also an incredibly engaging game. One that you can enjoy without paying attention to any subtext, and one that you can confidently recommend to almost anyone, without fear of being seen as a snob obsessed with a strange artistic game where deep meaning theme is more important than gameplay. After all, how many ambitious indie projects have we seen in the last decade and a half where the creators were took up with their own clever concept, forgetting to make an actual game? How many times have even good ideas become a bug rather than a future? Countless. Jonathan Blow, whose public image now hangs somewhere between visionary genius and a self-absorbed neurotic, did not make such a mistake in his debut project. It is the game design in Braid that comes first, even though the basic rules are extremely simple and can be described in a couple of sentences. Well, it's basically a platformer where you can rewind time back and forth, almost like in a Prince of Persia, but without limitation. And there's a constantly cool and unusual feature being added that allows you to look at the main mechanic in a new way. And that's it. The essence of the gameplay is clear. From there, it either resonates with the players or it doesn't. Cool and unusual features, of course, an understatement. Each of the 6 worlds that builds is divided into the build on its own unique mechanic, and each of them could have served as a basic for its own game. They are all that fruitful. It's simply a fountain of original ideas, some of which have surfaced over time in the other indie hits. Examples come in mind literally on the fly. For instance, in one of the worlds, here time only moves when the player moves. Why that's particularly super hard? Only here you can also rewind actions, and in another the hero is constantly followed by a shadow that repeats all his actions, just like the holographic doubles from the Talos principle. Looking at the modern landscape of the indie scene, you can constantly notice the shadow of the Braid here and there. Within the framework of design, such rotation of mechanics performs several important functions at once. On the one hand, by constantly throwing in something new, the game simply doesn't allow you to get bored. On the other hand, it teaches the player new features in portions before combining them in the same way. In terms of layering and difficulty, Braid can be still played as an example. It allows you to medically delve into the intricacies of the local time manipulation step by step, without a single text instruction interrupting immersion. At the same time, unlike many other puzzles, it won't let you get stuck somewhere for long. Any puzzle along the way can be skipped and returned to later when you master the rules better. Braid is a game for everyone. But it is of course much more than just fun, performer with unusual mechanic. Another thing is that this mode doesn't try to force feed the player. Figuratively speaking, it doesn't chain the player to a radiator, forcing them to listen to hour-long philosophical monologues of dubious artistic value, like some with one point finger rule. Instead, it politely invites you to walk beyond the surface perception, to walk about the internal, Whatever to agree or not is up to each individual, and then we will ears let him hear. Thematically, Braid rhymes with many games from the Easter to the relatively recent Remember by Ice Peak Lodge is another story about memories and irreversibility, mistakes and guilt, blindness and the truth right under one's nose, and the frenzy and pursuit of what most important. Ultimately about failure, the collapse of illusion and how to live with it afterwards. But what really makes the local plot remarkable is not the themes but the means by which these themes are revealed. There are relatively little text in the game, just a few paragraphs at the beginning of each world, telling about the life of the protagonist team, and a slightly more expansive and meaningful epilogue. But this in a case where much is said with a little, and although Jonathan Blow himself is quite crucial of his own thing, the textual component of Braid still performs its function. It's transparent enough to form a clear idea of the plot canvas and not asking questions like what was all this about anyway, but at the same time it's poetic enough to be open to the metaphysical interpretation. The famous childhood story of Rescue a Princess can be perceived as a melodrama about the inability to come in terms with the loss of love and war, and as a strategy of a creator unable to keep up with the chaotic idea, and as a dilemma of a researcher who sacrificed everything to look beyond the limits of the known world and was horrified by his own findings. At the same time, each such preface to a set of levels is closely intermediate with their mechanic basics. For example, the plot scenes from the already mentioned world, where time moves in unison with the hero, describe how various familiar places can awaken memories and even feeling from a seemingly long forgotten past. In the impersonating backgrounds, details important to the narrative appears unmistakably from time to time, which is fully justified. After all, we are traveling through memories, one may say a mental landscape, and the world in which time moves backward invites the main character's final loss of contact with the reality surrounding him. But enough spoilers. Those who know, and I sincerely wish everyone else to see the ending of the Braid for themselves, at least once. In terms of staging, drama, and integration into the overall concept of the game, it's hard to find an equal even in 2024. Well, and we can't help but say a few words about the introspective and a transgressive component of Braid, because its part is a game about games, and perhaps nowhere is revealed as much as in the local secrets again, absolutely optional for completion, but teasing these who like to dig deeper. Most of them are built on the principle of going beyond the frame, popular for puzzles. For example, here a simply unbreakable landscape, but there's something in the summer observers doesn't see, simply because they are looking at it with a familiar gaze. But some of them go not much beyond the rules of the game itself, but beyond the ideas about games in general, and they require action from the player that we are so unaccustomed to assessing with the game that the question involuntarily arises, is this even a game? As it is, it depends on definition, but thanks to Braid we definitely learned something new about video games, and later works on the theme of the boundaries of favorite medium, like Stanley Parable and The Beginner's Guide. Seems like a logical continuation of this reflection, and who knows where they will lead us to next.